you're still asking any questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
We're all set.
Yeah.
No, I get the gist of it, I think.
Okay.
But I don't want to let it go for too long.
Okay.
Okay. Tony, we're back for our fourth in a series of interviews, and up until now we've talked about your own history as a person and how you evolved through the Cold War where you were growing up,
Yeah.
taking your engineering studies,
yeah.
working at National Defense, how it affected you and your ideas and your concerns about the future, to your design of the biosphere, the technical design, the model.
A little bit.
But then also other ways of getting that information out so other people could hear it and understand it and start to think about it through radio interviews, through sending some information to National Defense. You have a website.
Yeah.
And then eventually to publishing a book that tells the biosphere as a story, a fictional story, a Christian science fiction story, but it gets some of the ideas across and hopefully raises awareness and people start to think about it.
Yeah.
We're going to conclude this series of interviews with a briefer interview now where you're looking from here forward. You've done all of these things up until now. What do you see as you look ahead, Tony?
Well, for a long time, evangelicals have tried to figure out how prophecy is unfolding, going back to a guy called Hal Lindsey, who wrote a book called The Late Great Planet Earth in the 70s.
Yes.
And many others, Grant Jeffries, John Hagee, all these guys, many more, have written books, and they all said, it's going to happen here and then now, like this or that. And some of them are still preaching. They might have modified their interpretation over time. And some people, a lot of people in evangelical circles believe that we're imminently approaching tribulation and Armageddon and all that, but they believe they're going to get raptured.
So there's no need for a biosphere.
Yeah, and I believe, looking at the scripture in Matthew 24, and I believe the other scripture about that's interpreted about the raptures in Thessalonians, and I think they've misinterpreted that.
Okay.
But it says in Matthew 20:24 that it's in the days of Noah, I believe.
Like the ark.
Yeah, and some people will be taken away, and some people will stay. And to me, being taken away, which the evangelical people interpret as rapture, is not accurate. Being taken away is not the good thing.
Oh, okay. You see it the other way around.
By the flood, yeah.
Okay.
People that stay behind, and to be a remnant, basically.
And try to repopulate the earth and recover.
Yeah. But
in the ark, it was more the animals, right? There wasn't a lot of people.
Eight people, I think.
Okay, I've forgotten how.
Three sons, Noah and his wife, and 3 sons and their wives. Yeah.
Okay, I've forgotten the details about that, but there's an awful lot of different species of animals, and they had
exactly,
the male and female of each.
And plants too, I believe.
Yeah. So that, okay.
Yeah. But in Thessalonians, I believe the scripture says the dead in Christ will rise first, and then those that are alive and well or something will be caught up with Christ in the clouds or something.
Okay.
And I see that totally differently. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then when you look at current events, what do you see today?
Current events, I see, I learned at National Defense that never in the history of mankind has there been an arms buildup that wasn't followed by a war. And so, right now, you're seeing, because of what happened with Yugoslavia, or sorry, not Yugoslavia, Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah. You see many nations investing in heavy armament.
Aligning themselves?
Yeah, jets, missiles, anti-missile systems, tanks, and alliances, as you say, alliances. There's people that are...
So alliances imply there's two sides,
There's two sides,
they're starting to,
the West and NATO and NATO allied countries, and the East, which is like Russia, China, maybe to some degree India, maybe Turkey, some Middle East countries.
What about Africa, Tony?
Africa is being somewhat settled or semi-colonized by the Chinese right now.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not the only ones, but they're certainly making an effort there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of resources and a lot of people there.
Exactly, yeah. So the question is, how long does this build up go on, and when is it going to get more hot? Now, it did get hot to a certain extent when Ukraine was compromised and attacked, but that was a conflict that started many years ago, I believe. It wasn't a new conflict. But I mean, the Chinese have been infiltrating North America in so many different ways for so long, including, as we talked about before, ripping off intellectual property, which I knew about, being a professional in a patent office, and having initially helped computerize the inside of the office, the workflow, and then to see that collection that was backfile converted into electronic form with all kinds of data links and stuff, to see that migrated to the internet.
Where everybody could get it.
And I didn't understand that at first, but then I got reports about what was happening from a friend who worked in international patent law.
Okay.
And I could see myself reviewing the annual reports. They used to be published in the annual reports for intellectual property for the patent office, that what the online searching was, the online searching traffic for the year. And it had 1 year it had gone up to 12 million online searches, and at that time there were less than 2 million patents in the whole collection going back to before the 1920s, I believe. So I mean, it was pretty clear that our collection had been exhausted over the internet.
Many times over.
Many times over. And I mean, that didn't include classified patents. They weren't disseminated, but that's a relatively small portion.
Is that military, typically?
Anything to do with defense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, national security, like. Okay. But I mean, if you're going to build a military, you have to know about material science, which was there, know about mechanical engineering, which was there, you know, transportation technology was all there, you know, all the chemical engineering stuff, all the electrical engineering, computers, control systems, it's all there. Like, and now, I mean, with the way the patent collection is, you're talking also genetics and bioengineering and all that stuff too. It's all there.
So stepping way back, Tony, when you know this is going on and you see this happening, how hopeful are you that the Biosphere can play a role there? And are you hopeful at all about it playing a role as a deterrent, like we talked about?
It could be a deterrent, or it could be. I mean, it could
be both, really, right?
Yeah.
So it could be required because there's a nuclear war, or it could be a deterrent to.
And then the question is, how public do you want to make it, basically, and where would you build it? And you'd build it outside of, far away from the nearest city, like.
The city is what's probably going to get hit first.
Yeah. Well, they're what you call strategic targets. Like.
Yes.
But I mean, the idea is you'd pick a place to build it, and I know where that is, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
You have a construction area.
Okay.
The biosphere itself is 1.25 miles by 1.25 miles. Surrounding it for several miles on each side would be different facilities to help building it.
Okay.
You'd have an equipment area where you have materials, including, and another area where you do on-site prefab.
Yes.
You'd have off-site prefab. You'd have machines that are used to build it, stored on part of the construction site for many miles around the biosphere. You have housing for the people that are working on it, and the people that are going to go into it, which to a large extent are the people that are working on it.
How many people are going in again?
About 50,000, 55,000.
Including maybe 20% children?
Maybe another 20% on top of that, children. Like.
Okay.
And you'd have you'd have materials, you'd have machines, you'd have housing for people. You'd have basically people living in housing that might be very similar to the housing that's being built.
So starting to adapt to that.
To adapt to it, 2,100 square feet for every 2 or 3 people. Like.
You made an interesting point that the people who are working on it, many of those people would be the people who would be going to live in it.
Yeah.
Which just makes sense too.
Yeah, and I mean, you'd have defense facilities. You'd have direct energy weapon facilities. You might have some force field facilities that would quickly probably be developed based on, either technology or space-time technology.
Things that are coming along. So between now and then, other technologies could develop, right?
Yeah, like robotics more, because I mean, that's being fast-tracked.
That's being fast-tracked.
Yeah.
So, what kind of a time frame do you see for it being built, Tony?
I say it would take 5 to 10 years. You also have computer facilities on site.
Yeah.
And the computer facilities would involve massive processors, supercomputers, that have been programmed to have a CAD model for the whole biosphere.
Okay.
You use CAD model in the initial development, and you keep developing that CAD model system.
Refining it, adding to it, adding details to it.
Yeah, and that CAD model system would morph into an instruction system for how to build it.
Right.
And possibly for robotic systems that are used to build it.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
So, as we look ahead and you see this as being a possibility and how long it would take,
Yeah.
Are we saying at this stage that the ideal case is if it's not, is that it's not needed, but
Yeah.
that it acts as a deterrent?
Deterrent, yeah.
The plan B, if it really is required after nuclear war, then you're saying if we can assemble this
Yeah,
equipment and people and knowledge to build it, it
Yeah.
can probably be done within 5 years.
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
I'm guessing it would take 5 years to kick it off.
Yeah.
Which means like maturing the technology is required to build it.
Yes.
And the CAD modeling. And preparing the construction site.
Yes.
And beginning to mobilize materials to build it.
And getting the right people.
And getting the right people, yeah. That would probably take at least 5 years.
Probably.
And then the 5 years to build it after that.
So if it works out that way where it
Yeah.
has to get built and it takes that long to build it,
yeah.
human beings have to start doing this before a nuclear war begins, right?
Yeah, I mean, but a nuclear war isn't going to happen just like that. It'll start.
Probably escalate.
It'll escalate, yeah. So I mean, when you see an escalation taking place,
that's when you got to start.
That's
building.
when you got to start working on it and take it very seriously.
And I think what Tony's saying is when he looks at the world events today, or the world news today, you see escalation happening, and these alliances being built up, and stockpiling of weapons.
Yeah.
So you're saying really the time to start thinking about this and building it is sooner rather than later.
I believe so, yeah.
Maybe we'll conclude there with our interview today, but Tony, thanks again for all of your insights and all the thought you put into designing this project, and I hope that our interview helps explain it a little bit better to people.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.